Well, good evening. Welcome to the continuation of our Holy Week worship. Today is Good Friday, even though we are living within the tension of a story that won't feel all that good until we return back here on Sunday morning. This service began last evening, where we gathered around this table to share in the Holy Supper, remembering Jesus and his command to love one another as we have been loved by God. Tonight, the depth of that love is made even more plain as we listen once more to the variety of acts within the Passion narrative that our evangelist shares with us. And we'll also revisit some of the writings that we've encountered during our Lenten Wednesday services, as some of the most celebrated saints and martyrs of the church have also considered the cost of discipleship. There is no formal ending to this service, as we won't hear a benediction until after we experience the good news of the resurrection, gathered in the light of Easter Sunday. Now, before we begin, I want to share a quick story. Over the past few years, we've developed a really important relationship with Carrie McCullough and the Roseville Community Action Team within the Roseville Police Department. With their help, we've been able to be more effective in our response to the growing number of people who come to us looking for help. And occasionally, Carrie reaches out to me for some extra funding assistance when she has a client needing some extra support. Sometimes this means asking Prince of Peace to pay for a night in a hotel for someone who's been approved for new housing, but their unit isn't ready yet. Other times, this means getting a gas card into the hands of a stranded traveler that the community action team is assisting. Knowing that we will respond as best we can when Carrie calls also means that she does the same for us when we call her. Now, none of this would be possible if this congregation didn't maintain a pastor's discretionary support fund. And our partnership with the Roseville Police Department has expanded our impact and the love that we are sharing with the world further than it ever has before. So thank you for valuing this work that we share. The offerings from Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, and a tithe from our Easter Sunday will go to the pastor's discretionary fund. Your offerings can be placed in those brass plates near the sanctuary doors or designated accordingly online. Thank you. I also want to remind you that we're still hoping to deliver another 500 pounds of food and baking supplies to our Minnesota Food Share partners at the Keystone Food Distribution Center. We're collecting through Sunday, April 7th. Now, let's enter back into this worship service as we read responsibly the Lenten litany. You need to look on your bulletins tonight. You gave yourself and call us to give our all. Teach me to empty myself for you. You gave sight to the blind. Bless me with your vision. You gave your life even for those who oppose you. Lead me to care responsibly for your world. You noticed the one who had only a small gift to give.
Use my small love to do your great work.
You challenge us to shake off our complacency.
Wake me up to be your disciple. Amen.
Together we sing our opening.
5. Jesus went on with his disciples to the villages of Caesarea Philippi, and on the way he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" And they answered him, "John the Baptist," and others, "Elijah," and still others, "one of the prophets." He asked them, "But who do you say that I am?" Peter answered him, "You are the Messiah." And he sternly ordered him not to tell anyone about it. Then he began to teach them that the Son of Man must undergo great suffering and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. He said all this quite openly, and Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But turning and looking at his disciples, he rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan, for you are setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things." He called the crowd with his disciples and said to them, "If any wish to come after me, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake and for the sake of the gospel will save it."
Oscar Romero, Catholic bishop and outspoken defender of the poor and oppressed, writes, "Oh, how well Christ identifies with the suffering of our people. So many people cry out from the slums and prisons in their suffering and hunger for justice and peace. My God, why have you abandoned me? You, God, have not abandoned us. This is the hour in which the Son of God is passing by, bearing the weight of sin from so much injustice and selfishness. Even when they call us mad, when they call us subversive, communist, and all the epithets they put on us, we know that we only teach the subversive witness of the Beatitudes, which have turned everything upside down to proclaim, 'Blessed are the poor. Blessed are those who thirst for justice. Blessed are those who suffer. Let each one of you, in your own vocation, nun, married person, bishop, priest, high school or university student, workman, laborer, market woman, each one of you, in your own place, live the faith intensely and feel in your surroundings that you are a true microphone of God.'"
did not want anyone to know it, for he was teaching his disciples, saying to them, "The Son of Man is to be betrayed into human hands, and they will kill him. And 3 days after being killed, he will rise again." But they did not understand what he was saying and were afraid to ask him. Then they came to Capernaum, and when he was in the house, he asked them, "What were you arguing about on the way?" But they were silent, for on the way they had argued with one another who was the greatest. He sat down, called the 12, and said to them, "Whoever wants to be first must be last of all and servant of all." Then he took a little child and put it among them, and taking it in his arms, he said to them, Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me. And whoever welcomes me welcomes not me, but the one who sent me."
Mother Teresa. How do we put love for God in action? By being faithful to our family, to the duties that God has entrusted to us. Whatever form we are, able or disabled, rich or poor, it is not how much we do, but how much love we put in the doing. A lifelong sharing of love with others. I never look at the masses as my responsibility. I look at an individual. I can only love one person at a time. I can only feed one person at a time. Just one. One. As Jesus said, "Whatever you do to the least of my brethren, you do to me." So you begin. I begin. I picked up one person. Maybe if I didn't pick up that one person, I wouldn't have picked up 43,000. The whole work is only a drop in the ocean. But if I didn't put the drop in, the ocean would be one drop less. Same thing for you. Same thing in your family. Same thing in the church where you go. Just begin. One.
server. Mark 10:32-45. They were on the road going up to Jerusalem, and Jesus was walking ahead of them. They were amazed, and those who followed were afraid. He took the 12 aside again and began to tell them what was to happen to him, saying, "Look, we were going up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be handed over to the chief priests and the scribes, and they will condemn him to death. Then they will hand him over to the Gentiles. They will mock him and spit upon him and flog him and kill him. And after 3 days he will rise again." James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came forward to him and said to him, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you." And he said to them, "What is it you want me to do for you?" And they said to him, "Appoint us to sit, one at your right hand and one at your left, in glory." But Jesus said to them, "You do not know what you are asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink, or be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with?" They replied, "We are able." Then Jesus said to them, "The cup that I drink, you will drink, and with the baptism with which I am baptized, you will be baptized. But to sit at my right hand or at my left is not mine to appoint, but it is for those for whom it has been prepared." When the 10 heard this, they began to be angry with James and John. So Jesus called them and said to them, "You know that among the Gentiles, those whom they recognize as their rulers lord it over them, and their great ones are tyrants over them. But it is not so among you. Instead, whoever wishes to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wishes to be first among you must be slave of all. For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many."
Edith Stein. Today I stood with you beneath the cross, and I felt more clearly than I ever did that you became our mother only there. The life and being of the God-made man was perfectly inscribed in your own life. So you could take your own into your heart, and with the lifeblood of your bitter pains, you purchased life anew for every soul. You know us all, our wounds, our imperfections. Thus carefully you guide our faltering footsteps. No price too high for you to lead us to our goal. Because being one with Christ is our sanctity, and progressively becoming one with him, our happiness on earth, the love of the cross in no way contradicts being a joyful child of God. Helping Christ carry his cross fills one with a strong and pure joy, and those who may and can do so, the builders of God's kingdom, are the most authentic children of God.
betrayer. Mark 14, 10, 11, 43, 50. Then Judas Iscariot, who was one of the 12, went to the chief priests in order to betray him to them. When they heard it, they were greatly pleased and promised to give him money. So he began to look for an opportunity to betray him. Immediately while he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived, and with him there was a crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests, the scribes, and the elders. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying, "The one I kiss is the man. Arrest him and lead him away under guard." So when he came, he went up to him at once and said, "Rabbi," and kissed him. Then they laid hands on him and arrested him. But one of those who stood near drew his sword and struck the slave of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Then Jesus said to them, "Have you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me as though I were a rebel? Day after day I was with you in the temple teaching, and you did not arrest me. But let the scriptures be fulfilled." All of them deserted him and fled.
Martin Luther King Jr., minister and activist for human rights, said, "Yes, love is the key to the solution of the problems of our world. Love even for enemies. Since this is a basic Christian command and a basic Christian responsibility, it is both fitting and proper that we stop from time to time to analyze the meaning of these arresting words. And so we may well begin with raising the practical how. How do we go about loving our enemies? And finally, we come to see that there is, within every person, the image of God. And no matter how much it is scarred, it is still there. And so when we come to recognize that the evil act of our enemy neighbor is not the whole being of our enemy neighbor, we develop the capacity to love him in spite of his evil deed.
denier. Mark 14, 26, 31, 66, 72. When they had sung the hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives, and Jesus said to them, "You will fall away, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered. But after I am raised up, I will go before you to Galilee." Peter said to him, "Even though all fall away, I will not." Jesus said to him, "Truly, I tell you, this day, this very night, before the cock crows twice, you will deny me 3 times. But he said vehemently, "Even though I must die with you, I will not deny you." And all of them said the same. While Peter was below in the courtyard, one of the female servants of the high priest came by. When she saw Peter warming himself, she stared at him and said, "You also were with Jesus, the man from Nazareth." But he denied it, saying, "I do not know or understand what you are talking about." And he went out into the forecourt. Then the cock crowed, and the female servant, on seeing him, began again to say to the bystanders, "This man is one of them." But again he denied it. Then after a little while the bystanders again said to Peter, "Certainly you are one of them, for you are a Galilean, and you talk like one." But he began to curse, and he swore an oath, "I do not know this man you are talking about." At that moment the cock crowed for the 2nd time. Then Peter remembered that Jesus had said to him, "Before the cock crows twice, you will deny me 3 times." And he broke down and wept.
Dietrich Bonhoeffer, German Lutheran theologian and anti-Nazi dissident, shared, "Costly grace is costly because it calls to discipleship. It is grace because it calls us to follow Jesus Christ. It is costly because it thereby makes them live. It is costly because it condemns sin. It is grace because it justifies the sinner. Above all, grace is costly because it was costly to God, because it cost God the life of God's Son. You were bought with a price, and because nothing can be cheap to us, which is costly to God." And more from Bonhoeffer. Where the world denies justice, Christians will practice compassion. Where it hides behind lies, they will speak out for those who cannot speak and testify for the truth, for the sake of our brothers and sisters, be they Jew or Greek, slave or free, strong or weak, of noble or common birth. Christians will renounce all community with the world, for they serve the community of the body of Christ. And being part of this community, Christians cannot remain hidden from the world. They have been called out of the world and follow Christ.
cost. Mark 15, 21, 32. They compelled a passerby who was coming in from the country to carry his cross. It was Simon of Cyrene, the father of Alexander and Rufus. Then they brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means place of a skull. And they offered him wine mixed with myrrh, but he did not take it. And they crucified him and divided his clothes among them, casting lots to decide what each would take. It was 9 o'clock in the morning when they crucified him. The inscription of the charge against him read, "The King of the Jews." And with him they crucified 2 rebels, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads and saying, "Aha, you who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself and come down from the cross." In the same way the chief priests, along with the scribes, were also mocking him among themselves and saying, "He saved others, he cannot save himself. Let the Messiah, the King of Israel, come down from the cross now, so that we may see and believe." Those who were crucified with him also taunted him.
From Mark 15. When it was noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. At 3 o'clock, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, la sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, "Listen, he's calling for Elijah." And someone ran, filled a sponge with sour wine, put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink, saying, "Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to take him down." Then Jesus gave a loud cry and breathed his last, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two, from top to bottom.
Paul's words to the Colossians. Therefore, as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience. Bear with one another, and if anyone has a complaint against another, forgive each other. Just as the Lord has forgiven you, so you must also forgive. Above all, clothe yourselves with love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. And let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in one body. And be thankful. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly. Teach and admonish one another in all wisdom, and with gratitude in your hearts, sing psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs to God. And whatever you do, in word or deed, do everything in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God, the Father, through him.
Mark 15:39. Now, when the centurion who stood facing him saw that in this way he breathed his last, he said, "Truly, this man was God's son."